Happy Friday! In this Friday video, I want to tell you a few handy tips about OneNote. And this is totally different from my usual, but three different people today from three different states actually came to me to ask questions about how does Flow work with OneNote. So I said, okay, it's just some trend going on here with OneNote. Let me see what I can help people do with OneNote and Flow. So this is just a few handy tips of how to use the OneNote connector from within Flow. So we're going to start by going to look at Flow, and I'm going to just create an instant flow. We'll just call this test 1. And I'm going to just put a button in it. Sometimes I do this just for getting started with my discussion. I'm going to show you the connector for OneNote first. So here we go. OneNote for Business. Notice that with OneNote for Business, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. You get both triggers. You get 3 triggers when a new section is created. So that means that when a new section is created in a OneNote book, this would trigger. When a new page is created in a section, so if a page was added to the section, this would trigger. And then thirdly, when a new section group is created. So again, if you're using OneNote, just by creating a new section, you could trigger something. You could trigger something if a page is added to a section, and you can trigger something if a group is added, okay? So all of those are triggers. Okay, so keep those in mind. You can trigger from OneNote. I'm not going to do that tonight, but I wanted to show you the triggers. As far as actions go, we got quite a few actions. We got create a section in a notebook, create a page in Quick Notes, create a page in a section, get notebooks. That's like if you want to just go, give me the list. Maybe you're making an app. In the app, you could have a drop down that shows all your notebooks. So you would use the get notebooks. You have get page content, which will literally get you the text or the content on a page. And then get all the pages for a specific section, or get sections in a notebook. All right. So basically, these 7 actions are what you can do in OneNote. All right. Now, if you notice here on the right here, there's a little icon. There's also one up here. So if I click here, well, let's click something here. Let's click, which one do we want to try? Get sections in notebook. Okay. If I click that and then I click up here, you'll see there's an I. So I can click that I, and that I will help me find the documentation. It'll say learn more. And I click on learn more. This is the official documentation for the OneNote connector, and it tells you all the known issues, throttling limits, talks about every single action, so you can click on it and learn more. These are quite technical in nature because they're highlighting what can be done with the keys and what's required, but it is a good document to read, especially when it comes to known issues. You always need to read any known issues in any connector that you choose. The biggest known issue that I'm aware of on OneNote that I don't like, to tell you the truth, is that their API doesn't support you setting the page title. So when you create a new page using the create a page action, you will not be able to set the title of that page. And you'll get to see that with my demo tonight. All right. That's the only thing I don't like. Everything else is really cool. It even tells you how to do that. So like, even though you can't do that with the action, they actually give you a way to do it right here. You can use tags. You click on that link, it'll take you to the page that shows you how to use tags. And they give you the full API documentation. So you have basically in this page, everything you need to know to use the connector. But you know what? Flow is thinking about you, and they don't want to give you too much hard work. But I will show you that I'm going to go get, using this action, I'm going to get the sections in the research notebook. And it says notebook key here. Don't let that throw you. We actually get the key from your action of selecting a notebook. So by you selecting the research notebook, now we have the key. All right. So I'm just going to save this and I'm going to run a quick test on this. And I'll show you what you get out of this, right? So I'm going to perform this trigger action. And I'm going to go ahead and run this flow. This is just a test run, just I want to see what it will do. I made a button, so I can always press this button on my phone or however I want to press this button. So that ran beautifully. Let's go look and see what the output is. So right here, you can see that I have, these are the sections that I have in my book. I have one called Research Notes. I have one called Section 2, and I have one called Section 3. And if you go to my book, you can see that. Research Notes, Section 3, Section 2. Remember that these are the sections, but the actual name of the book is Research, because we can have many books, right? But this is the research books, and these are the 3 sections in that, and we got that out of flow here, so that you could actually continue this flow and do other things. Right? But we're not going to do all the things today. I want to show you how you can quickly get started using OneNote in Flow. Anytime somebody asks me a question about how does something work with Flow, I start right here and I just type that something right up here and search. And what I end up with is all the templates that we've already designed for you to do stuff with OneNote via Flow. Look how many we have here. There's a bunch, many of which even start with Power Apps. So you can make your own Power Apps that send data to OneNote. My favorite Power App template for OneNote is the Meeting Notes template. It has a great integration with OneNote and Planner. And so if you run the template, it'll give you a lot of help in how to set that up from a Power App. But tonight, I'm just going to use this template here because I think this is a handy one. So another trend in my life is I've been talking to a lot of people in legal. So they're either lawyers or they're paralegals, they're doing something in law. And they have to do quite a bit of research based on a particular customer or a particular case. And so I think this would be a great one because if I was doing research for a case, I'd like to consolidate my research in one place. I don't want to have to dig through 15 or 20 emails to find information. I want to consolidate my research materials into my OneNote, all right? So I'm going to try that template. Copy flagged Office 365 Outlook emails to OneNote. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice the title is up at the top. When it specifies what kind of mail, you do want to pay attention. So if you wanted it to go from Gmail, then you wouldn't use this one because this one is specifically for Outlook. And you can see the connectors there showing you that we're going from Outlook to OneNote, little arrow pointing Outlook to OneNote. But then I always suggest you read the text too, because sometimes the text will have more than just a description. In this case, I just see when an email is flagged. So we're going to flag emails in Office 365 Outlook. This template adds that email as a new page in OneNote. So that's great. And you probably would have known that already from the title, but always read the description because sometimes we put dependencies in there. Like for instance, if it was going to SharePoint, the description might tell you you need to add a date column to your SharePoint list or library. So that if you don't read that, you won't know it needs a date column. If it doesn't have a date column, the template will fail. So always read the description because there may be dependencies. In this case, we're good. We have Outlook, we have OneNote, we're good. So the connections are down here. Usually if you've used Outlook or OneNote before, you'll see that those connections will validate without a problem. Or you can always click on the 3 dots to add a new connection if you don't have one yet. Remember that all connections require that you're able to log in to that connector. So you would have to have an account in anything that you're connecting to. In this case, we're all in one Office 365, so we're good. This is going to be the easiest type of scenario ever. So I'm going to hit continue, and then it takes me into the email that's already formatted for me. Here's a few handy tips here. I will often rename my flow because they put the title of the template, it's too long, right? So I might simplify it. Flagged emails to OneNote. Let's keep this simple, right? That way I know how to find it later. It's not taking up too much space. I tend to be very anti-spaces and stuff because this is like a data source to me, you know, my list of flows. All right, so now the trigger that it's added for me is just going to trigger when an email is flagged. And it has an action in here to create the page in the section. So this is one of those actions we saw a few minutes ago. We're going to use the create a page in a section because this assumes we already have a notebook planned and we already have a section planned. And so we're going to add a page to it. All right. Now, I notice in legal, what they will sometimes do, because it wants to know which email folder should trigger this. For the most part, people will select the inbox. But I do notice, especially in legal, where they will set up subfolders in their inbox for each case. And then they'll use rules in Outlook to push that client's emails into the appropriate folder. So if you do things like that, you'll want to drill into these until you get to the folder that you want this to trigger in. And it will not listen to any other folder but the folder you put right there. Right? In my case, I'm not going to use Project Falcon. I'm just going to use Inbox. And that's probably most people. The only reason you need to really drill down beyond Inbox is if you're one of those people that sets up subfolders for your customers or projects or initiatives. Okay? In this case, I'm good with just Inbox, but I wanted you to know that that possibility was there. In addition to that, I can specify that I only want these emails to trigger if they are from a certain person or if they have a certain subject line in them. So all of these boxes here are ways to further clarify which emails can trigger this flow. Now, we've got the inbox picked. I don't have any advanced options to add. Now I'm ready to create the page in the section. We go back to my example here. The notebook is called research. I don't want it in section 2 or section 3. I want it to go into research notes. So back in my flow, my book, and again, it says notebook key, but if you just drop down over here, you can just pick the notebook that you want from the drop down and we'll find the key because you clicked on that notebook. And then as far as the notebook section, when you drop this down, it'll show you all the sections in your notebook and you can pick the section that you want this email content added to. Now here's a big handy tip that I give people who, they usually start doing this, they start doing their flow, and then they realize, oh man, I gotta have a section. So they'll go back here and they'll make another section. And then they'll go back to flow and they'll drop this down and that's not there. So flow's not paying attention to what you're doing in OneNote while you have this actual flow open. So what you could do, now I'm just going to pick the right one and save. What you could do, if you want to get that section that you just made to show up, close the flow and then reopen the flow. So just put it back in edit. And now when you drop that down, you will see that new section. Okay. So just remember, if you're adding sections while flow is open and you're in the workflow, it's not going to show the new ones there. But if you close it and open it, you can see them, the new ones you made recently. You can also choose enter custom value and type something there. But I do recommend it's better if you select it. That way you don't take a risk on typing it somehow different. All right, so now that I've picked my notebook and my section, now we've done some nice work for you. We have a great team of people working to help us to make these templates awesome. And they kind of predicted that you'd want to put into that page column the subject, the content, and the from. Now, interestingly enough, when I look at these tags over here, you'll notice I don't see the from. Isn't that interesting, right? So it's something that our template team picked up as well. And it's because this stuff over here, this dynamic content, are all the outputs from this trigger. So these are outputs, things that came out as a result of the trigger. But from is actually probably an input from the email, and it's not shown there. So we have to use the expression trigger body from. But you don't even have to worry about that. You can just use the template. It has what you need. And then just revise everything, okay? Customer sent research and data shown below. So you don't have to say what we said. You can say whatever you want to say and move on, right? This is an HTML view scenario, so that's picking up any HTML as well as what you're putting in here. You can use this to see the HTML view, all right? So that's all I have to do. I'm just going to hit save. All right, remember that this is going into research notes, into the research book when I flag an email. So I'm going to click save, wait for this to say saved, and then go back to my flows. And now I'm going to go to Megan's email. She's got this email here at the top called simple email. This email is from somebody who gave her some research material about what they spent in the year 2000 and what they spent in the year 2015. She said, this belongs in my research. So all she does is hit this little flag icon. All right. Now I had flagged it earlier in test, but I'm going to flag it again here. Basically, you just have to make sure that that flag is red. Something that's not flagged looks like that here. This is flagged. This is flagged. Okay. But this is the one I just did. So if I go back to flow and click on this, we should have triggered this flow. And it may take a minute or so. So the amount of time it takes is a lot of different variables related there. One variable could be what license do you have? Because that may determine how often it polls Outlook. Another thing could happen. What if the Exchange server is running slow for some reason? That could impact how quickly it triggers. What if something online is had too many API calls lately and needs to be throttled because there's been too many calls? And you'll notice on all the connectors, they will give you the limitations for throttling. Like this one, you can only have 100 calls in 1 minute. So I don't know, there was some major panic and we were able to flag 100 emails in 1 minute, which I don't doubt. I don't think it's possible, but let's imagine that we're super fast or we're a robot. We could do that. It might throttle us, slow us down. So I find that this usually works within a minute or two. And as you can see here, it took less than a minute. So 51 seconds ago, it triggered. It ran successfully. So an email was flagged. You can even open this and see who the email was from. I actually sent it to myself being this demo tenant person. And then if you scroll down to the created page, you can see that it happened in 4 seconds. It took all that content and output it to OneNote. Notice that as per the note on the OneNote connector page, we cannot set the title. The title is not available in the API, so it comes up blank. So if we go into our research to see what happened here, we're going to go back to research notes. We'll see that I have an untitled page because the API doesn't give us that. So, but if we click on it, all the content from that email is in there. So I might title this at this time, right? With whatever I want. But just keep that limitation in mind. You won't be able to title your pages when you create them. via the actions that you see there. However, if you go to the OneNote connector page, it will tell you how you can do that through tags. And it gives you the full OneNote API documentation. So these aren't flow limitations. These are API limitations. And every connector you use has its own limits, issues, and limitations. So it's a good idea to keep a link to this page, docs.microsoft.com/connectors, so that you can check whatever you're trying to connect to see what its limitations are, what its throttling limits are, what's its story. And it will break down everything. So if I click on actions here, it'll show me all the actions that are available that we saw at the beginning of this video. If I click on one of them, it'll give me details on what's possible and what the outputs are. But I really love to just try it in Flow and see what the outputs are. So with all that in mind, today I hoped you learned that you can use Flow to send data to OneNote. And you saw that OneNote has its own triggers that can occur. And OneNote has many actions that can be used to create sections and pages and groups. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you're the kind of person that was hoping to use OneNote with Flow, I bet you're going to be able to do that now. Have a great weekend, and I'll be talking to you soon.